Hello, and welcome back to Translator's Troubles for students of Greek and Latin. This is a video on Martial 1.50. It's another short two-liner which, at first glance, seems completely baffling, but is more or less easily understood once we get Martial's references. Here's the text, and it translates to something like this. If you call your cook Mistelos, why not call mine Teratala? What or who is a Mistelos, and what or who is a Teratala? It turns out that this is a reference to Homer, specifically this line, Autar epe katamere kaie, kai splankna passanto, mistulon taratala amph obeloisin epeiran, which translates to something like, Then, when he burned up the thighs and they tasted the guts, they cut the rest and put it on a spit. Something cool to notice here in the Greek, note the tmesis, or the splitting of a verb from a prefix. In the first line, the autar repe katamere kae, the verb is katakaio. Mere is an accusative dual, and it's referring to the two thighs of the animal being burned. So katakaie is the verb, mere is the object. Poets will do this kind of splitting of a verb from its prefix for various reasons, but a common reason is to create a nice visual metaphor. So, by the tmesis, katamere kaie, the verb of burning literally engulfs the meat. The word meat, mere, is surrounded by the word burn, katakaio, just as the actual meat is surrounded by fire. Cool stuff. Back to Martial. Mistelos is a play on mistulon, a Greek verb meaning they cut, and taratala is a smushing together and transliteration of taratala, and then the rest. Some sources think this is just meaningless wordplay. One even goes so far to say outright that there is no reason for using these words other than the sequence of words in Homer. But maybe there's something else, and I think that it might be a joke at the expense of the cooks, or at the expense of the men employing them. So this bit of Homer, Iliad 1, 465 and surrounding, comes from a passage where Odysseus delivers Chryseis back to her father, Chryses, in order to stop the plague that is destroying the Greek army. It's an important moment because this is why Agamemnon takes Chryseis from Achilles, which sends Achilles to his tent sulking and gets a bunch of Greeks killed. So, in thanks to Apollo, Chryses prepares a sacrifice. Greek sacrifices, and Homeric meals generally, didn't include much in the way of flavor, but they did include the tasting of fresh intestines and other offal, none of which are mentioned as having been cleaned. So this wouldn't have been super tasty, especially to the palate of an urban Roman. Mistulon is the third plural active indicative imperfect of mistulo, to cut up. So on this reading, if we turn the verb into a name, mistulos could be something like cutter or chopper, not really a proper cook. Taratala is hard to translate out of context because it contains two particles, te and ara, which have widely variable meanings. Here, the te's probably just mean and, while ara is marking sequence. The ala part means the rest. So, just before Chryses and company cut the remaining meat, they taste it. What is left after you've tasted something? Well, leftovers. So, if this is a joke at the expense of the cooks, rather than just a meaningless jest, it's that the cooks of Martial and Aemilianus should be called chopper and leftovers, respectively. Not exactly nice names for the people who make your food. Again, I confess freely that several sources that I looked at made the assertion that this is just meaningless wordplay based on the way that these words appear in Homer. But Martial isn't normally meaningless, and while this might be pushing the text too hard to find meaning, I think we at least have to try to find meaning in Martial wherever we can. This has been Translator's Troubles for students of Greek and Latin. Thanks for watching.